The slight issue we've always had as an industry is understanding the true cost of a damage. And that can be obvious when it's a repair cost. But actually, when you look at the indirect costs, and when you look at what some of the people at the University of Birmingham have been doing, they've been able to prove that the cost of a strike is 29 times the direct cost. When you look at the societal impact, when you look at the brand reputation and the customers cut off, so 29 times what they thought it was, or what industry thought it was, is the actual cost.
Strikes are most definitely being reduced. I myself came from a background in New Zealand where the same system is in use, a similar system, should I say, one call system, and that reduced strikes by about 25% when that went into operation.
Some of our network was actually direct buried in the early days of the company. And if the cable gets hit, there wouldn't be enough slack to join the cable up. So you actually need to dig further back on the network and put two joint enclosures on the fibre connections. And you're looking at potentially, for a 144 fibre splice, if that's kind of our highest count cable, if you had one of those, you'd need to put a new closure in, do a splice on that end, splice onto a new sort of slew of cable, do another splice here and here, and you're probably looking at about 8 to 10 grand for something like that. That's just purely the fibre work. So if we had additional customers come in and say, well, my downtime was for 3 hours, then we should reimburse the customer for that amount. So yeah, the costs can potentially go up from that as well.
Sika did an average type of industry survey and found that on average the UK incurs 70,000 strikes a year. In the US it's 500,000 strikes a year. So this is not a small problem. So if you were to actually quantify the true cost of that, given the ratio 29-1, that's £800 million a year.
Well, it's very easy to identify the direct costs of an asset strike, the cost of actually repair and recovering that situation. The indirect costs, which are not so easy for people to understand and see, cover things like reputational damage. You know, you have a serious asset strike, you have a loss of service, you have a regulatory impact as well. So there's a number of different things which can have a major impact on an organisation just from one individual asset strike, but it actually balloons out from that, the cost, and the cost can be a factor of 20 or 30 times higher than the cost of the direct cost of repairing that particular strike.
We are with Line Search Before You Dig because we recognize that any thing we can do to prevent any kind of cable break is money well spent because of the cost to business for these breaks, especially with our customers, and that is a whole indirect cost liability.